Welcome to this special edition of We Are the Watchmen Weekly. My name is R.C. Williams.
And I'm Juliana Ormond.
Wow, what a great idea, Juliana, to just do this today. You know, we write so much for We Are the Watchmen Weekly and ripped from the headlines. It's nice to do video and to share people. They get to see our faces, we get to talk, whereas we normally write. So this is a great idea today.
We also get to help connect the dots because we write about so much, but us summarizing what's really happening and then going, okay, let's get you all up to speed as to what we are looking at so that you can see it too is really important to us.
Yeah, it is great to be able to do that. And then to talk about all the dots that get connected. You mentioned that a second ago. Watchmen Action was born out of this publication. We're equipping the church to engage the culture with what we write, and we decided to extend that to teach, to preach,
right? Well, to move the church.
Right.
Right. What we learned through our investigative work was here's a system. Okay. Yeah. So now we just need to write the system up, which we did with the workbook, right? And now it's okay. We, the people, can now implement the system. We can come together and move issues forward the way we would like to see those issues being moved forward.
You know, we had a conversation with Grant Beloy not too long ago, and it was interesting to hear as a public servant. He is the clerk of the court and the comptroller for Seminole County, Florida. It was very interesting to hear what responsible leadership sounds like and what it looks like. You know, he's been elected for another term. We were at a swearing in. You know, to see the work that he's done and for him to be so proactive about, hey, you know, we handle the checkbook for the county commissioners, which means we handle the checkbook for the county. To see him being overly transparent and saying, here's where you find the information it's a good lesson.
Well, you know, he comes from the private sector, right?
Right.
So, like, he walked in and said, hold on a second, I need to make sure that that which we're supposed to have in the private sector, we're also getting in the governmental sector, especially because it's our money and they're doing what we need them to do. Therefore, you know, we, the people, need to understand what's happening behind the scenes. So Grant has done a phenomenal job, you know, being able to do that for us in Seminole County.
Yeah, he also that video interview is certainly worth watching. If you go to watchmenaction.org, you'll find it there. It is certainly worth watching. You know, he made mention of people being civically involved, and people often ask us, they're like, you know, what's wrong? And we're like, when the church abdicates its role of leadership in the culture, there's decay.
Yep.
So don't be surprised if in Washington, D.C., or your state capital, or even your city hall, that your interests and things around biblical citizenship aren't represented.
Exactly. But remember when we went to the event with Dr. Latipo?
Yes.
And he said very clearly, I need you guys to tell me how you feel and what you think and what you want. Like, you know, I had a stance on vaccinations over here, but then my wife and other constituents came to me and said, hey, I want you to look at this vaccine. And he was like, I changed my mind. Right. And it was really awesome for him to say, I need you, the citizens, to come to me to tell me how you're feeling about things. But the thing is that we should be doing that automatically. That's our responsibility.
Right. Dr. Joe Latipo is the Surgeon General for the state of Florida, for our friends who are watching around the country. You may have heard his name floated around for U.S. Surgeon General, but he was also very vocal with the mRNA injection and the fact that it was dangerous. And he has recently come out as well to talk about the fluoride in the water being poisoned. And with Scott and Jill Kiley down in Marco Island, which is in the southwestern corner of the state of Florida, two citizens who decided to stand up and say, here is how we go and talk to our representatives.
That's right.
Here's how we educate them, and here's how we make change. And as of this episode, we're seeing city councils and county commissions pull the fluoride out of the water.
So we've got a couple of groups that are they're yelling from the rafters. For some reason, like fluoride is now like, you know, top of the list where people are going, just look at this right here.
Yep.
It's going to save us money. We don't need it in our waters anyway. You know, we as a people can come together under one banner. Let's just talk about fluoride.
Right.
Right.
Right. And it's working. That system is working. Yep. I'm excited that as we launch the Watchmen Action online community, that we're able to share those keys to victory. You know, Scott and Jill were very kind to say, hey, take our templates and our information, share them with anybody can use this. You know, they're not looking to get paid for it. They just want people to use it so that change is effective. And that's believers really standing up and doing the right thing.
So speaking of believers, we want to talk about Vic and We the People and what he's doing.
Yeah, Vic Malore and the team down in Venice, Florida, with the We the People clinic. So, in the battle of right and wrong, good and evil, obviously we're surrounded by evil, and we're called to be salt and light. That can be difficult to do when life is weaponized against you.
Mhm.
And guys like Vic and his team down there have done an incredible job. His first big tackle was the Hollow. Basically, he said we need a compound
Mm.
where we can meet, get together, where freedom rules the day. And that wasn't enough. He's
Right.
like, hey, look, man, they're trying to kill people in the hospitals and all this other stuff. And so then here comes the We the People clinic. And the fact that you can go there without fear of, have you been vaccinated? Or they try to sneak a vaccination on you or do something else crazy. You don't have to worry about that. And you can get the holistic help
Right,
that you
exactly.
need.
So I love the fact that Sarasota is really well known for the medical and pushing our agenda, We the People's agenda,
Right.
right? And pushing back on what they wanted to do. And we've got Marco Island, and they're talking about the fluoride. So we've got Marco Island really getting known for the fluoride situation. And then we here in Orlando, we're going to start talking about Vision Zero. And what
Right.
does that mean for us?
Yeah, Vision Zero is an incredibly dangerous and insidious plan. Now, on the surface, you may have heard this before. Vision Zero proposes that if you remove cars from the road and there is some type of social, economic, or other justice in accidents, that you'll stop them. When in reality, what it is a precursor to the 15-minute cities program. The goal being that you don't need a car to go anywhere. You can pretty much walk to everything you want to get to within your 15-minute city.
Open air prisons.
Right. So you begin to see the problems here. If they can control your movement, then they can control you, right? Because then how are you going to go outside of your 15-minute city to get food or anything else? Or if you can't spend your money outside of your 15-minute city, you're kind of stuck.
Yep.
And you're at the mercy of a government group. And we see what these government groups do. It's like if you go to the Vision Zero website and you look at what their guiding principles are, you quickly see that apparently there is not social or economic justice in the speed of a vehicle. And and they do literally do this comparison. I should actually find it says we're doing this, right? Because we're gonna work on the big board anyway. We're gonna share. I mean, this is worth sharing with people because it's scary how these people think. And I'm going to find this. We were on this article the other day, and I just want to track it down here.
So what was interesting is that Amaya and I had gone to a delegation roundtable, whatever it's called, and somebody started talking about Vision Zero. And she just looked at me like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, see, I've been talking about this because the people don't know about what's going on. And she's like, I had never heard about it before. And then even yesterday, I was at the salon getting my hair done. And I'm talking to the ladies, and they're like, this is what? And I'm like, Vision Zero. So for our audience, just so you know that, the government's number one responsibility is maintaining our sovereignty. When you're talking about bringing in a globalist agenda like a Vision Zero, I'm sorry, but you kind of lost us. Like, you're not representing us, and you certainly are not representing our sovereignty at this point.
Yeah, I mean it's true. So let me do this. I'll share I'll bring this up. So this is just an example of what these people do. New resource, fair warnings, recommendations to promote equity in speed safety camera programs. So apparently speed safety cameras are not equitable and aren't in DEI compliance. So apparently these cameras are racist in some way and they don't exist in the places that they should. What's interesting though is this group proposes that under the current plan for traffic safety in your community, that the idea of eliminating accidents versus reducing the speed and therefore the fatalities in accidents is a better idea than removing them altogether, right? Or mitigating them as much as possible.
So I want our audience to know the fact that I had a conversation with our commissioner, Jim Turney, and he said that he had biked to where we had been. It took him 25 minutes, and how much he loved it, and how eventually, all of Altamont will now be driverless cars. And I'm like, who decided that that was going to happen in my county? Like, we're in the middle of Altamont Springs. Who decided this? Was my voice heard? Did they come and say, hey, we're going to take a vote? There's this thing called Vision Zero. We would like to start instituting it. How does the people feel about this?
Yeah, I'm actually, since we're doing this is so good that we're doing the show. I'm actually going to pull this up too. I mean, we just share with people. So if you go to wearethewatchmen.org, you can see the stuff, but also rip from the headlines. If you go to sherlockexposes.com, it'll bring you to rip from the headlines. And we did this story last week. We spent a lot of time in research on this, and what Juliana is talking about here is scary. So, here in a Verge magazine article from 2016, Frank Martz, the city manager, when talking about the Uber subsidized rides program, and the reason it came about is because he got denied because he wanted to do something else totalitarian. He decided to call up Uber and say, hey, are you interested in helping to subsidize rides? Because I want to go autonomous. So he said the issue of transit usage was not about infrastructure. It's about convenience and control.
Huh.
So now, supposedly this is for good infrastructure purposes, which is what Turney told you in essence, right? But that's not true. And so if you fast forward, Vision Zero was on the city council agenda on October 15th of 2024. And Frank Martz basically shoved Vision Zero down the throat of residents of Altamont Springs. And I'll just point out to everyone that it was motioned by Commissioner Reese, seconded by Commissioner O'Malley, to approve the plan for adoption and authorize the mayor to execute. The motion carried unanimously. Eric Soto, who was running for city commissioner, was talking about this and saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't a good idea. Shout it down, forget about it, right? Next thing you know, this thing gets through. Unbelievable. But here's the thing we found when we started researching this. We're like, oh my God, our city is dealing with this. It is all over the place.
Everywhere.
It is incredibly scary.
Yep.
How pervasive this stuff is. You're just like, it happens right under your nose.
They're implementing that which they wish to implement, and they're getting their instructions not from us, obviously, right? But I always say this, and I have to say it.
Yeah,
it's our fault.
It is.
It's our fault. We're not showing up. Okay.
100%.
Everything that RC and I have done with Watchmen Action, okay, all the writing that we've done is because we're market research people. That's how we help people. That's our core business, right? And we're started going, hello, is anybody seeing this? And other people started writing about it. And we're saying we need to make what we're seeing mainstream, because people don't understand that these 15-minute cities are called open air prisons for a reason.
Yep.
The reason why they're tanking our dollar, okay, is because they want to bring in the CBDC, the central banking digital currency. They've been talking about this. We've been writing about this for how long now? Right? And it comes to a point where you have to go, excuse me, my brothers and sisters, are we all hearing what's going on? Are we connecting the dots to say, you know what? If you go A plus B plus C equals, and you can see what's happening, right? And we can no longer sit back and go, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. We don't talk about those things.
Right. That ship has sailed.
Oh yeah. Over. Like it's not coming, right? The enemy's not coming. The enemy's here.
Sitting in your living room, looking at you saying, hey, do you realize I'm the enemy? I hope you continue not to notice me so I can do even more damage to you. It's the reality that we live in.
And everyone was saying, oh, Florida, you're so safe in Florida. No.
You start to understand in this process just how important not only states' rights are, because in the US Constitution, the states put together the Constitution to form a small and limited federal apparatus to handle few and defined things. Chris Ann Hall does a wonderful job of breaking all of this down. If you just Google her, you'll see it all, and it is worth watching. A couple hours that'll change your life, and understanding what your rights are and where those rights fall. the incoming Trump administration has said that they're going to cut at the federal level and return a number of these things to the states and the local municipalities.
So this is what we're hoping. Ready?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're hoping is that we're preparing people, we're preparing our constituents, we're preparing the politicians, so that if Trump does what he says he's going to do, right, and you're shrinking the federal government, then the responsibilities and the monies also come back to the states. Now, if that does happen, then we, the people, have an opportunity to stand up and say, states, this is what we expect to be happening. Okay. So if Trump does what he's supposed to do on a federal level, then we, the people, need to do what we need to do on, on the ground.
Right. Right. Because listen, at the end of the day, all politics are local. Right. When you think about representative government in a constitutional republic, it starts with family government. Right. It starts with self-government, then family government, then church government or ecclesia government. How does the body work together? Then civil government. Wee tiny, supposed to be wee tiny thing. But now it's like, right.
And it wants to run your entire life and what you're supposed to be able to do or not do as a parent, or spending your money, or you're allowed to live, or what you should be doing. I mean, it's at the point where,
if you don't fight for your rights, you'll end up getting privileges, which can be easily revoked by a government apparatus. We are so far removed from understanding even the basics, like a mandate is not a law. We've talked about this a lot. But during Fluvid, people fell for it. Oh, it's a mandate, you got to do it. No, you don't. It doesn't become effective unless you consent or you're silent. Right? Our friend Bill Federer always says silence equals consent. It is so true. If a bill goes across the president's desk or your governor's desk and it sits for 10 days, it automatically becomes a law.
Tacit.
Right? It's tacit approval. Silence equals consent. You have to understand these things. And believers, we're supposed to be the boldest. We're supposed to be speaking out the most. Right? And if we don't, we're in all sorts of trouble, which is why we are where we are right now. So Juliana, I'd actually like to let's pull up Watchmen Act. Let's pull up We Are the Watchmen. Okay, so let's do that because, we spent the last couple of years putting together basically a comprehensive search engine for all the pieces to equip the church to engage the culture. So what we've learned from this process is that when you're out talking to someone who is lost or seeking, the most effective way to break through with them is to talk about things that are relevant to them.
Exactly.
And then show them the path to what's wrong. And then show them where the answers are.
I think people were looking for what's real, because when we're watching the news, people are starting to understand that it's all propaganda, that there's so much lies, right, being pushed upon us. And they were looking for I'm seeing this thing over here. The greatest compliment I've ever gotten is when we're on the street and somebody will look at me and go, thank you so much for what you wrote, because I was talking to my husband about the situation, but he wasn't believing what I was saying. But now I can say, We Are the Watchmen wrote this thing. We have some experts and some researchers at the table going, you're not crazy in what you're feeling, what you're seeing. This is actually happening. People are actually writing about it and talking about it. And yes, you've been gaslit by, MSNBC and all those others, right? And now it's time that, we, the people, are having the conversation and saying, here's reality.
Right.
Because there's so many more of us, right, that are grounded in reality, not this whole new kind of culture that they want to be able to bring in, where, the mama pops are going, yeah, we're not accepting this new culture that they want to bring in. Like, we want to bring the church back into the center of our culture. We want to be able to have moms who can stay home because dads are making enough money so that we can live the American dream. Right. Like the way that they've been taking us, the journey they've been taking us to the culture that they want to have, is not one that we are going to consent and say that's okay. We're now at the point where we're pushing back and saying no. People are now waking up. People are looking for the information. They're saying there's evidence out there, and now what do we do next? And that's why Watchmen Action happened.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at We Are the Watchmen Weekly, right? If you're looking at your screen, we've got stuff we publish every Saturday morning, but we're looking at our greatest hits here, right? The most popular. So one of our most popular pieces goes back almost 2 years, right? And what's interesting is what we discuss in here is we talk about man's attempt to destroy God's order, right? And as you look at this was one of our origin stories on the war on women.
That's right.
Right? And how they're trying to destroy. Why do they want to destroy women? They give life.
That's right.
They nurture youth, and they anchor the home. All things Satan hates, right? Because he hates the union between husband and wife.
Well, look what we've been able to do as husband and wife, right?
Right.
And if they don't need women because they have artificial wombs now, so they can grow a baby, so they don't need me.
Yep.
Right? So they can grow their own little transhuman. Wow.
Right. You don't think through the ramifications. So it's interesting. The way this started is that Jill Biden gave the International Women of Courage Award to a biological man.
Where are the women screaming? Every single woman. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I do not care. At what point do you say this is degrading to me?
When you go down this road of being godless, and this is what you get, right? You become God, and whatever you think is okay, right? Obviously insane. So basically what you're being told here is a man who feels like a woman, but isn't really a woman. You're commanded to treat this man like a woman.
Nope.
Because that man feels like a woman.
Nope. Nope.
Not today.
My Bible says otherwise.
Exactly.
Well,
and there's the scripture, right?
That's right.
1 Corinthians 6, 9, and 10. These are the people who will not inherit the kingdom. Pretty obvious there, right? The Father doesn't play around. He's pretty clear in his language. So then we actually transitioned into ecto-life, right? So this is what happens when you break covenant with God. And you do these things, is they propose that artificial wombs are the way forward. This video is about 7 or 8 minutes. It is worth watching when you go and you visit the site. It'll change the way that you look at things. So, their proposal, as Juliana mentioned, it's like, we don't even need women to reproduce. We can just put some stuff and put it in a tube here, right? Or a bucket. And then over time, it'll just grow. What was interesting about this, Juliana, when we researched this piece, remember when we looked at these things and I said, it sure looks like the Matrix with the pod people, right? Everybody was in their own pod. It looks just like
exactly like it.
And what did they do? They harnessed energy. This is being talked about now, by the way.
Yep.
They want to harness our energy. They're going to pay you for producing energy.
Yeah, you're a battery.
Your battery, which was the premise of the Matrix.
Right.
They turn people into power. Wow. So this continued on, right? So Hershey's Canada decided to go down this road with their International Women's Campaign. There's a man who thinks it's a woman, and there you go, right? So they go through this. I mean, it was unbelievable doing research for this. The young lady who did the AT&T commercials was talking about she was excited or proud to have had abortions and stuff like that. You see how the minds get twisted and warped so quickly. One of our most popular pieces. Another one was that following week. Like, we were on a streak in 2023 of things that happened, and we were talking about AI gods and Chat GPT religion, where they were creating basically these machines that they said, oh, well, we can just dump in the Bible. Or Buddhists were like, hey, we can just dump in all the texts. And then you end up with stuff like this, right?
And Harari is saying that we're going to get the real way that the Bible should be
AI interpreted. Is going to write the real Bible. That was his statement in Portugal. It's amazing to me that we get to this point. Intelligent AI robots are coming. They'll have the ability to perform religious ceremonies and can even turn against humans. Well, here we go, right? So, this one was in Japan. It's like a 6'4" thing as you go through and you read everything that we talked about.
So you said that an article came out recently with somebody that was talking about rewriting the Bible.
Yeah, we'll come back to Russell Brand in a second. I just want to
Okay.
share with people. If you read this, you will see that the Maidan robot in Japan and then the Santu robot in Portugal are basically these AI versions of God. And these videos are incredibly scary. Something you pointed out before we came on today, we were talking about Elon Musk and what's going on. And at this point, how he appears to be a hero. People quickly forget that Elon Musk with Neuralink wants to put a chip on your brain.
Yep.
And when he's tested this on monkeys, they've gone insane, like suicidal insane. Like 28 days later, the movie Insane with rage and right. These two things they don't work together, right? It's like either you say, I was wrong about this and you rebuke it, or you say, no, that's who I am. But you can't toe this line and act like some kind of conservative hero and still be a monkey chip brain murder guy.
Well, at this point, they say that they have all the ingredients that they need inside people, that they can build the chip already, so they don't need to inject you with the chip. They can actually use the frequencies and whatnot to create the chip inside of you. And people think that this is,
We did a piece on that in Rip from the Headlines. And if you go to SherlockExposes.com and you search for nanoparticles, you will find we did a piece on this where in 2016, the Rice University in Texas actually did an entire study. And there's a video on this where they tested nanoparticles and certain frequencies with a Tesla coil they would self-build.
Yep.
So the logic being that these nanoparticles, if there was a circuit out in your refrigerator, instead of a repair person coming out, they would just tune to the right frequency and it would fix itself based on what they wanted it to do. Wow.
That's scary.
It is because, the active piece in that.
Well, this is my body. And now what you're saying to me is that I don't have full control, that somebody else can do X, Y, and Z with me. They can implant, thoughts and feelings and, wow.
So, Juliana, this was one of the big concerns about the mRNA injection because what does it contain? Graphene oxide.
Yep.
Todd Callender, if you go and find our interview with him, he talks about this and what the ramifications are and whether or not people are still human. We won't go all the way down that road, but it is certainly worth watching. You'll find that information here. So before we wrap, I did want to take a look at what you're talking about. Let me just find. There it is. Okay. So this was on crosswalk.com this week, and we also do the news for the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce newsletter, and we shared this story. So Russell Brand, who was not a believer, right, and then became a believer, apparently had a spiritual awakening, is now under fire for advocating new ways of understanding Scripture. Well, you don't need a new way to understand Scripture. You need to understand Scripture as the Father intended.
There you go.
I'll read his quote because it's just kind of strange. Now that we are tethered potentially to continual self, we are going to have to, I believe, learn new ways of understanding Scripture, Brand said, speaking to an audience. And the new ways of receiving him, because as the word was written in the language of its time, anticipating all time for surely, he exists beyond time and beyond space and outside of the senses. The ultimate reality is beyond the conditions of our reality as we appreciate and receive it. We as inhabitants of this realm are going to have to learn how to operate within technology. Otherwise, that technology, I reckon, it could become pretty Luciferian. That is a Kamala Harris level word salad. My goodness.
The fact that anybody thinks that they can start bastardizing the Bible and bringing a new twist to the Bible. It's bad enough that we have the Geneva version of the Bible.
Right.
The difference between the Geneva version versus the King James version, right? The Geneva came first. So you can see how, King James bastardized part of the Bible. I can't imagine a Russell Brand coming in and now saying, we need to look at a Bible a certain way. or Harari saying we need to build a new Bible, or and where's the Christian church? Because we're the ones that are now under attack. And I don't think people want to believe what they're seeing. I think people think that war looks a certain way,
Yeah.
not understanding that this is a war.
Yeah. So, I mean, from a theological standpoint, there's obviously a number of things wrong with this, right? I think one of the challenges with this, Juliana, is that what should have happened is strong believers in Russell Brand's circle should have come to him right away when he professed conversion and ministered to him so that he understood the responsibility of being a believer and following the Father and Yeshua on this path and what that really means. Because if they had, a statement like this would have never come out of his mouth.
Right.
So he's conceding the point. Well, we're going to be continuous. Wait, not in the way you think. You're thinking you're going to live inside a machine. That's problem one. And basically what we're saying is since it looks like that's going to happen, we need to learn how to operate within technology. Well,
technology is supposed to help us.
Right.
We're not supposed to be living inside the technology.
Right. One of the things we said about the AI gods that they built, like Maidan and Santu, is the Father is perfect in all of his ways, as is the Son. How could an imperfect being, that being us, build a technology that is perfect if we are inherently imperfect?
Right.
Once you get past the shiny object, this is ridiculous, but
people believe it.
Nothing new under the sun.
Right.
Satan runs the same game that he's always run.
And people fall for it all the time.
Every time.
But that's why we're here.
That is why we're here. So, guys, being able to do this special edition of We Are the Watchmen Weekly was special for us. And I think doing this more is really important. Our job, do the Father's will, equip the church to engage the culture, help you to analyze and understand the news so that you can use it in whatever way is most valuable to move his mission forward. And then to train people to be able to take on the things in their communities and the surrounding areas that are most important to them. Because if the ecclesia doesn't stand, you may as well pack it in right now. It's game over.
I think that the ecclesia is just looking for a couple of leaders to stand up and say, hey, we've got a way.
We do.
So,
as 2025 ramps up, we'll be in New York 2 times this year, one speaking at the Prophetic Congress and another at a men's conference. And it's exciting to see the remnant of the remnant take a stand.
Right.
Your prophetic understanding and ability is amazing. And I look forward to us being able to share that with people because they want to move. I agree with you. But we've got to step up. All of us as believers, we've got to step up. We've got to minister. We've got to have the conversations. And we got to keep moving forward. So this has been a blessing.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, guys, thank you for watching this edition of We Are the Watchmen Weekly. You can find out more about everything and find links to everywhere at watchmenaction.org. That's watchmenaction.org. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.